Hi friends, meeting on the other side of the other side. Uh, I feel this style of working is better, where I can record in short spurts, so there's less pressure, and maybe it helps in the quality. And I think it's good for you also because you can refer small individual topics at your leisure rather than trying to handle the whole video at the same time. Maybe you can give me a feedback on this, and we'll see if we can improve the system. But so far I feel this is a better way. So trying to recap the whole thing we have done so far in research. We went into the meaning, into the definition, the purposes, the areas where it is useful. Then we went into the types of research, fundamental, applied, and action research. Then we said that let's look at the classification of research, on what basis it is classified. We already did the classification based on focus. Now we will do classification based on data. Before we go into discussion of classification of research based on data, let's briefly understand what we mean by data. Anything that has a value or which can be given a value, that value is the data. Take, for example, an apple. The color of the apple is red. Red becomes the data. The question, what kind of fruit is this? This is an apple. Now, apple becomes the data. How many apples are there in this basket? There are 12 apples. Now 12 becomes the data. How many kgs these apples weigh? Maybe you can say 3.25 kg. So now 3.25 kg becomes the data. Similarly, if someone asks you how happy you are, and you say, I'm very happy becomes the data. So if you see, the form of the data changes depending on the situation or the kind of questions we ask or the kind of answers we want. Now, taking a step further down the line, when data is just thrown maybe on the table aimlessly, then it does not form information. It is just data. When you collect data in some sensible way to make some sense, then that is called information. For example, you have chits with marks of the students thrown around the table. That is data. It has no meaning. But when you collect them as row 1 students, row 2 students, row 3 students, row 4 students, or data marks of the boys and marks of the girls, now this becomes information. Having briefly given you an idea of what data and information is, now let's look at data itself. When we said 15 pieces of apples, 3.5 kg of apples. Now these are numerical data. When you say I'm very happy, the color of the apple is red, the gender of the person is male. Now, these are non-numerical data. Taking a step further down, when we look at the numerical data, when you say there are 15 apples, then 15 becomes a countable number. But when you say 3.5 kg of apples, then they become non-countable. So countable data is called discrete data, and non-countable data of numerical form is called continuous data. See, if you say how many apples are there, you can say 17, 14, 20, 100, 210. You can't say 1.75 pieces of apples are there. So it's discrete. But when you say how many kgs of apples are there, you can say 1.75 kg, 10.25 kg. What is the height? 1.75. What is the weight? Maybe 35.3 kg. So these are continuous data, can be expressed in decimal numerical forms. Now, why it is important for us to understand this is because that is what our topic today is: classification based on nature of data. So if you don't understand the classification of data itself, then there is no point in talking about classification research based on data. So similarly, research also is classified into these categories. Categories where you can measure the variables. Variables is anything that you can measure for the sake of your experiment or for the sake of your research. Once again, variable is anything that you can measure for the sake of your research. So when that variable that you want to measure can be measured or counted in numerical terms, then that is quantitative. But with respect to feelings and attitudes, you don't have a kg or a thermometer. उसको गुस्सा था 100 degrees. It's not possible. Where will you use the thermometer? उसके brain में नहीं डाल सकते हैं ना. So there, it is about quality. So we will speak or refer to this kind of research where you check the attitude of the people, or the behavior in the class, or any psychological or psychometric tests. Then these are qualitative because you cannot quantify them. You can only refer to their qualities as degrees: very angry, somewhat angry, less angry, not angry at all. So you're looking at the degree. But very angry is not 100% anger, then no angry, or is not 50% angry, then somewhat angry. There's no correlation at all. So qualitative. So now there is a third kind of research which is called mixed research. And mixed research is about when you do a research which involves qualitative variables as well as quantitative variables, then you'll call it a mixed method research. Generally, in most of the researches, it's always mixed because when you are researching in education, especially when you are researching humans, then to research any aspect of the human without looking at the human behavior, attitude, or psychology, the research would tend to be a little bit less meaningful. Can't say meaningless, less meaningful, one-sided. So any educational research, if it has a human behavioral aspect touched into this, then it becomes a more tasteful, colorful, more wholesome kind of a research. So mixed method research. So now we have said quantitative research, where the things which you have to measure, which we call as variables, can be either counted or measured in numerical terms. Then you have qualitative research, where feelings, attitude, psychometric tests, where you cannot actually measure them, but you can refer to them as degrees, and a mixed method. So now let's, as is our style, let's go and formally see what academically these guys are talking about and get a little better idea. Qualitative research, research of a phenomenon based on behavior which cannot be measured. We already spoke about that. Let's go to the example. So it says a researcher conducts in-depth interviews with high school teachers to explore their experiences in implementing project-based learning. Now, for example, now NEP 2020 has come, so many schools want to implement a few things here and there to be seen, as I told last time, to be seen that you are with NEP 2020, क्योंकि वो NAC का A grade A+ चाहिए. So first they are going to see NEP का कुछ किया कि नहीं ये लोगों ने. So you may be implementing something, then you want to understand how well the teachers are taken to it, or how well they are implementing it, and so on. So you are trying to gauge their feelings. Now quantitative research is research of a phenomenon which can be measured in quantifiable units, measured in the sense that you can count them or measure them. The example that they give is a researcher measures the effect of study hours on students' mathematics scores. So now here see what is doing. This is purely quantitative. How many hours of study does the student put to study maths, and what are his results in his maths exam? So there is no feelings involved at all. This is pure mathematical research. No, sorry, it is pure quantitative research. How many hours, that can be counted. How much marks, that also can be counted. And now you have a data-based quantitative research. And let's see what they say about mixed research. Research which uses both qualitative and quantitative approaches. Example, research studies the impact of flipped classrooms on students' engagement and performance in science. So here, now both attitudinal as well as actual results will come into play. For example, you in a class you want to find out that why the students are doing poorly. So two things can be looked at. One is the results, one is the attitude, one is the teacher attitude, one is the environment factor. So see, environment factor you cannot measure, you cannot count that there are so many noises happening in the environment, maybe 4 kilo of noises. Maybe you can have decimal if you have to really decibel. Sorry, but otherwise, the attitude of the teachers, attitude of students, it becomes a qualitative. The number of marks that the student gets is quantitative. So this kind of research is mixed research. So having gone academically through these three things, we have come to an end of our classification of research based on data. Last time we did based on focus. So data, so what comes up is qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method research. So hopefully now you are a little bit more better exposed to the concept of research, and when we meet on the other side sometime later or next time, we will see once again we will be classification of research, but based on design, in the sense that what kind of design are you using to conduct your research, and based on that how we classify. Don't worry too much, we will go and understand what design means later on, but just try to bear in mind that when you stitch a shirt, it can be a collarless shirt, or shirt with a collar, or short sleeves, or long sleeves, and so on. So the design. So in research also we have similar designs. So we will see how research is classified based on design. So thank you very much, guys. It was nice, going through this for you all, so that you have a better understanding. And I hope when you watch it, also it's useful. Thank you and goodbye.